Across our community, many face mental health challenges in silence.
It's time to break that silence and shatter the stigma.
Every voice, every story matters.
Join us in the Hear Me, See Me campaign.
Let's unite to shine the light on mental health.
Showing everyone they're seen,
heard,
and supported.
Visit WIBW.com/hearmesee-me.
Together, we can start the healing. Be seen, be heard, be supported.
Morning can be a little hectic, but at WIBW, we're up to get you going.
we'll get right to the big stories you need to know before you go.
Up with your first alert forecast. Rain will continue to overspread northeast Kansas tonight and winds down tomorrow.
And up with one-on-one interviews with people you need to know.
There and put that on.
We're up for what's now and what's next.
If it's happening now,
it's happening here.
13 News This Morning, up to get you going. Kansas Prep Zone, brought to you by The Pennant, with Vince Lovergene and Katie Marr. When it comes to playing football, they are really not that good, but they are the best when it comes to covering high school football in Northeast Kansas.
Kansas Prep Zone every Friday night, your WIBW sports team. Katie and I will have all the highlights and all of the action right here on these football fields. Stick with us, WIBW Sports.
As extreme weather grips northeast Kansas,
-10 at times tonight,
a boil advisory hit the city of Topeka, and 13 News led the way.
Cold caused a PVC pipe to break.
First to alert you of the risk facing the capital city's water supply, bringing you the latest developments.
Emergency declaration is
and taking your questions to city leaders.
Bacteria samples.
All while keeping you ahead of threatening weather conditions. The 13 News and First Alert weather teams, keeping you safe and informed.
Afternoon and welcome to a special Eye on Northeast Kansas. Today we are focusing our entire discussion on the recent violence we've seen in the city of Topeka and expanding the time beyond our usual half hour because this is such a big issue and concern. This is not the sort of record the city of Topeka is bragging about. The most homicides the capital city has recorded in a single year. The first 2 in the first 8 days of 2023, the next 3 in a fatal fire, and 2 more before the month of January was done. More recently, the month of October, starting with 5-year-old Zoe Felix, then 3 teenagers and 4-year-old Laurencia Perez-Belair, all in the following week. And just this week, the 33rd homicide victim killed in a wreck caused by a driver who police say had just fled a traffic stop. So where do we go from here? It is a very complex issue, and you can see that we have a large group here today to give many perspectives on some potential answers and solutions and suggestions for how we move forward. We begin our conversation with our public safety professionals. They are tasked with responding to these crimes, investigating them, and also working toward prevention. Topeka Police Chief Brian Wheelis, Shawnee County Sheriff Brian Hill, and Washburn University's Police Chief Chris Enos are all here. Thank you, gentlemen, for starting this discussion today.
So that's where we would have the potential to see a tornado touch down. This is the same storm that earlier touched down in Westmoreland. But right now, what we have is the Doppler radar indicated tornado, and it's a very impressive storm cloud that's over Topeka right now, no doubt. This is one that certainly probably remember for a long time after watching this one go through and looking from Menninger Hill in Topeka.
A report from Emergency Management in Jefferson County on some rotation near the Calhoun Bluffs.
Calhoun Bluffs, okay. Thank you, Doug.
Jeremy, thanks. The worst of tonight's storms hit Westmoreland, where 1 person was confirmed to have been killed. 13's Michaela Kelly reports live from the town, where authorities have updated the situation throughout the night.
Well, Victoria, right now I'm outside one of just many houses that was destroyed as a result of today's tornado. Pottawatomie County officials say that the northern part of Westmoreland received the brunt of today's damage. 22 homes were completely destroyed, while 13 experienced recoverable damage. First responders from across the surrounding counties and the state arrived quickly to help assess and clean up.
We had Manhattan Fire here, I believe Wabunsee County Sheriff's Office, Wamego Police, I believe St. Mary's.
Thanks, Jeremy. 1 man is in custody tonight as law enforcement investigates the death of a child. 25-year-old Michael Cherry is in the Shawnee County Jail being held for rape and first-degree murder in the death of 5-year-old Zoe Felix. Cherry's bond is $2 million. Topeka police were called to a disturbance around 6 last night at a gas station at Southeast 29th in California. First responders found Zoe and began life-saving measures, but she was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Authorities had this large crime scene taped off in a grassy field just north of the Dillon store there throughout the day. Cherry was booked just after 4 this morning. Jail officials list his address as homeless. TPD, though, said he and the child knew each other. Zoe's neighbors are heartbroken to learn what happened to her. 13's Callie Holthouse is live in Southeast Topeka for us tonight. Callie?
Yeah, I'm here just behind me. You can see one of the crime scenes where this occurred and a small memorial that's been put together in honor of Zoe Felix. Earlier today, I spoke to the neighbors who lived just across the street from the house Zoe stayed at with her mother. They're devastated to learn that despite their repeated pleas for help, Zoe still suffered this tragic fate. Neighbors of Zoe Felix say they loved the 5-year-old like she was one of their own.
Loving girl, questions. Loved the children. All the kids played with her. They all looked out for her. Everybody looked out for Zoe.
She was a curious George.
She was a curious George with nowhere to go. Nowhere to go.
But despite their efforts, they say she lived a life of instability. The house she stayed in lacked utilities, and she was sometimes left home alone.
No lights, no water. By herself sometimes.
Neighbors say they did what they could for Zoe, helping keep her bathed, clothed, and fed, even going so far as to report Felix's living conditions to local authorities. Police Chief Brian Wheelis would not confirm whether authorities had any prior contact with the family. He also would not comment on their relationship with the suspect.
The information and all the investigative evidence will be compiled and sent to the district attorney's office.
Neighbors say they are left devastated.
It hurts. It's a tragedy. You have a death, and then you have a tragedy. Hers is a tragedy. And I just experienced a tragedy. That's a tragedy. It's more than just a death. It's a tragedy.
13 News did submit a request, a Kansas Open Records Act request to the Department of Children and Families to see what, if any, investigations took place regarding Zoe Felix. A DCF spokesperson would only tell us that Topeka police notified them of Zoe's death, and their thoughts are with those who loved and supported her. Back to you in the studio.
Fiesta Topeka, 90 years of pride, passion, and culture. A special presentation of 13 News.
It's part of our community. It's part of our heritage.
If you belong to something, you should honor it.
If we don't keep our culture alive, a part of our hearts, a part of each one of us will die.
This is a vibrant community. There's something to learn from our culture.
Welcome to our special presentation. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. For 9 decades, Topeka's Oakland neighborhood has opened its arms to all for a party. Their Fiesta, Fiesta Topeka, marks its 90th anniversary this year. As always, everyone is invited to the Our Lady of Guadalupe church grounds to celebrate the traditions, the dances, the music, the art, and the food of our Mexican community, all to support the church's joint school with Sacred Heart Parish Holy Family School. This milestone also gives us a chance to reflect on a story that begins before the first fiesta ever happened.
Coming to a new country, not knowing the language, not having money. They were running away from the revolution in Mexico. That's how our grandparents and great-grandparents started here. My grandpa came to work on the railroad.
Welcome into the Eye on Northeast Kansas Hear Me, See Me podcast. Hear Me, See Me is a project of WIBW-TV, our year-long effort to raise awareness of mental health, some of the issues people face, some of the resources that are available, and beyond all, letting everyone know that there is hope. We're also sharing stories, and today we are joined by Ms. Felicia Glass. Felicia, you're a social worker, you're a counselor, you are just a person who is knowing everything. Maybe not knowing everything, but if anybody knows you, Felicia, they know what a positive person you are. I've heard you speak and I'm always motivated by you. How do you come by that positivity?
You know, it's a choice every day. Every day it's a choice.
Welcome into our Hear Me, See Me podcast. Hear Me, See Me is a special mental health awareness project of WIBW-TV here in Topeka, Kansas. As we kick off May's Mental Health Awareness Month, we are blessed to be joined today by a member of the family that really revolutionized psychiatry and psychological care and how we have come to understand mental health in this country. Dr. Walt Menninger, thank you so much for being here.
You overestimate what we did, but thank you.
Start.
How you been?
Not good. And it's been so long since I felt happy. I just feel so lost and alone and like nobody understands. I feel like nobody really hears me. I'm good, how are you?
Good, I'm great.
Hello, KPZ fans. It's Sub-State Week. One more week until the state championships game.
Yeah, and our final week of KPZ for football.
And then basketball is going to start up. And
Different logo.
We didn't plan this, though. We're matching too. Kind of ish, right, maybe?
A little bit.
A little bit with the tie.
I think you might be a little bit colorblind there because this is a darker purple, but A for effort.
I am colorblind.
A for effort.
It is. But yes, well, hey, we got a great one for our game of the week brought to you by Lewis Toyota. Derby making the trip to number 1 in 6A, 11-0, Washburn Rural. A trip to Emporia for the state championship on the line. Well, this guy, Lafayette Thompson, had a big game on the first possession. He takes the handoff and will find the house for the early score. Extra point was blocked, making it 6-0. The Washburn Rural does one better. After a Derby score, J.C. Hine blocks the PAT, keeping it tied. Into the second quarter, Brandon DeWeese rolls to his right, finds his favorite guy, Titan Osborne, in the end zone, just keeping his toes in. Then on the extra point attempt, oh wait, it's going to be a fake, and King Leonard keeps it himself.
Whoa.
He's going to get the score. You always got to have some trickery, right?
I like it.
Well, the Blues lead 14-13 at the half, and Thompson here does it again. On 3rd and long, he's going to get the reverse, and will go all the way to the end zone for his second score. The Junior Blues led 28-13 in the fourth. Well, Derby fought back. 10 minutes left. Braxton Clark winds up and finds Colton Rudy in the end zone, making it a one-score game. Then after a defensive stop and a couple of minutes later, they drive down, and Clark finds Rudy again. It's a 2-point game, Katie. Then they're going to go for it for the 2-point conversion, but Osborne makes an incredible tackle to keep it 28-26. Nicely done.
Nice.
But in the end, Derby's going to get the ball back, drive down, 5 seconds left. Grady Joseph, he's going to get it 20 yards out with no time left. Derby's going to win this one 29-28. Lane, you were there, man. What were the emotions like?
Well, Vince, Katie, definitely after the game, there was a lot of heartache for Washburn Rural. You know, it's always tough to cover a loss for a team that we cover, but one especially to this magnitude.
Who you trust matters. At WIBW, finding truth is our promise to you. Checking the facts on all sides.
Good evening and welcome into our news tonight.
To serve you with accuracy.
Tomorrow's a widespread batch of rain moving in.
Impact.
Governor Kelly wants to see a tax plan worked out after previous
and transparency.
659 domestic incidents have been
empowering you to make the best decisions for your family, for your future. WIBW 13 News.